Frank Luntz is gaslighting on CNN. Take a look.
I sat on this stage with you and got chewed out when I suggested there's a better language to reach out to voters.
Shout out to Environmental Coffee House, Danny and Jock. This is Mr. Frank Luntz. Oh boy, here we go.
Is missing what they're looking for. And I say this the same thing here. Americans just want to be Americans, not hyphenated Americans, not female Americans, black Americans, Jewish Americans. They just want to be Americans.
How do you think it?
So this is the pattern with him in this piece where he just keeps saying stuff that, I don't know if it's sophistry, but it's like it sounds good. You know, Americans just want to be Americans. They don't want to be hyphenated Americans. And I know to the audience he's probably appealing to, this is great. Yes, yes, finally. Okay. The approach I'm going to take with this is I'm not going to take a position on DEI is good or bad, Frank Luntz is correct or wrong, or I'm going to agree with the CNN. This is not about that. I'm going to focus in this video entirely on Frank Luntz's integrity and whether he's making a good faith argument here or not, right? So please, please, please try, if you can, to put aside your opinions about who's right and who's wrong, your opinions on the subject matter. Ignore the subject matter. I'm sure there's tons of videos talking about the subject matter. This video is not that video. This video is a video assessing Frank Luntz's integrity and is he doing a good faith effort to have a actual conversation? We're going to have a conversation. Is he really doing that or is he playing games? Let's see.
Makes people feel, black people, women,
Americans.
How do you think it makes people feel, black people, women, any person who has immutable characteristics about themselves, to be told every time that something happens that because they exist in a particular role, it is their fault? How does it make them feel?
How does it make people feel?
Just look at his face while she's asking the question. And notice that his response begins with the word how. Again, ignore the substance. I know it's hard, right? You're listening and you're like, yeah, man, what she's saying is stupid, or yeah, man, what she's saying, forget about that. Just focus on the question asked and the response. I mean, right away, again, you don't answer a question with a question, right? He's asking how. We don't even need to know how what, right? She asked him, how does it make people feel, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know, or well, I probably think they da-da-da, or what people tell me they feel is blah, blah, blah. No, he's deflecting from the question. Listen.
Exist in a particular role, it is their fault. How does it make them feel?
How does it make people feel when they're told that they're a racist?
No. I mean, answer. But answer my question.
I am, because these are predetermined considerations.
No.
You were going
you're
to
assuming. You're telling me I'm
do you
calling.
Want an answer?
Well, you're not answering my question. You're telling me.
Yes, I'm trying to.
You were telling me that.
So this is classic bad faith technique. So really, again, the focus is, I want you guys to be able to recognize these kinds of tricks. Frank Luntz could be correct, or he might be wrong, irrelevant. The thing is, good faith conversation. Notice the things that he says. He says, can I answer the question? He's asked the question, and instead of answering the question, he's asking a question himself. Common tactic. A lot of politicians use this. You ask them something about something they're uncomfortable with. If it's Kamala Harris, you get the which everybody likes to make fun of her for laughing. But the typical politician, what they will do is they'll ask another question. Right? What do you feel about, what do you think the American people feel when Trump says blah, blah, blah? Well, what do you think the American people felt when Black Lives Matter? You know what I mean? Like, that's a common tactic. It's manipulative. And it's indicative that this guy feels that he's on the losing side. Right? That's an important thing to notice. He doesn't feel that his position is the correct one. He doesn't feel that he has a strong position. If he did, he would lean in and answer the question, be like, well, they feel it up. But no, he's running away from it, right? He feels threatened by the question that she's asking, so he wants to change the topic. And then the thing about it is, again, gaslighting. He very clearly was not answering the question. He was not trying to answer the question, but he pretends as if he is, and as if we're all stupid and we can't see what he's doing. Oh, no, can I answer the question? Think about it. You ask the question. You refuse to answer the question, And then when you're pushed on that, you say, well, will you let me? No, but you weren't. Right? And the idea is if she just shut up and let him talk, his whole rambling on about other stuff would eventually end with him answering the actual question. But that never happens, right? He's just going to ramble on and on about, well, this and that, and they're calling us racist, and then, this, and I did a survey, and then he's done. It's like, but that wasn't the question I asked you, right? The really disingenuous people, what they'll do is they will keep saying that they did answer the question. So his thing is, oh, you're not letting me answer. But if you let him ramble on and on, he won't answer the question still. He'll just ramble on about more stuff. And then when he stops and you're like, hey, you didn't answer the question. Like, I did answer the question, but you just don't like the answer, right? This is the typical tricks that they use, right? And then if they're really dishonest and you really push them, then they start saying, well, I'm not going to answer the question the way you want me to answer the question. It's kind of like, listen, man, do you like hot chocolate or not? Well, you got to ask yourself, it's people that drink soda and this and that and, and candy. Okay, but you didn't answer the question. I did answer the question, but you don't like the answer. No, I asked you if you like hot chocolate. Do you or don't you like hot chocolate? I answered the question already. I answered it. You just don't like the answer. You can't tell me how, that wasn't an answer. You can't tell me what's an answer. I'm going to answer the question the way I feel like answering the question.
Your response is in bad faith. I mean, what she is saying is something you're.
Well, you're not answering my question. You're telling me.
Yes, I'm trying to.
You were telling me.
Oh, by the way, the other factor is if you agree with Frank Luntz's position, you're not going to notice any of this. And that's why these kind of tactics actually work, right? It takes advantage of the psychology of how we are as humans. If you relate to Frank Luntz's position, hear me and hear me well. So talking to you, the audience, right? If you listen to this video, if you agree with Frank Luntz, right, it's going to be very difficult for you to recognize the games that he's playing, right? Very few of you will. Some of you will. Some of you have enough critical thinking to pick up on, like, I agree with Frank Luntz, but why didn't you answer the question? But most of you, you won't see that. You will connect to him on some level of like, yeah, I feel that, or whatever. And then her pushing on him because he's not answering the question, you will just look at it as, oh, she's being unfair, and that's CNN and mainstream media, and hook, line, and sinker. And then if I'm a right-wing influencer, I will take this very same interview and I will frame it very effectively in a way where CNN is trash and Frank Luntz owned them and blah, 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 right? And my audience will be like, yeah, they'll agree with it. Because again, my audience probably agrees with, not me, I'm saying if I was a right-wing channel, my audience probably agrees with Frank Luntz's position, right? So it's very easy for me to deceive them and be like, well, look at her, she won't even let him talk, and he's answering the question, and she keeps cutting him off, and that's what CNN does because she's afraid of the answer. All this kind of nonsensical things, it'll work. It'll be very effective. You'll be like, yeah, nodding your head. It's just like, you got to detach yourself from your feelings about what he's saying and actually pay attention to the substance. Pay attention to what's happening. She's asked a question, he's not answering it, and then he's lying about it.
Your response is in bad faith. I mean, what she is saying is something you're not responding to because it doesn't address why Donald Trump immediately went to DEI as an explanation without any evidence whatsoever.
100%.
An inexcusable and certainly a very devastating and tragic plane and helicopter crash a couple of days ago. And instead, you pivot to talking about how terrible it is that some people who voted for Donald Trump
100%.
are being called racist and sexist. You're refusing to grapple with the central issue.
My understanding.
Frank, it's an option.
Hold on.
Frank, it's an
because
option
my
for
understanding
Trump.
is of the voter.
Frank,
that is what I do.
It is an option.
What about
for
the immorality?
Hold on.
His understanding is of the voter. More nonsense. He was asked a specific question. He refused to answer it. He's being called out for not answering the question. And now he's continuing to play the same game, right? He doesn't want to answer the question. He just wants to talk about, they're tired of being called racist. They're tired of being called racist. Okay, fine. Right? I concede that what you're saying is true, that the voters are tired of being called racist. Okay, now can you answer the question? It's just like, he's not answering the question. It's like they're asking him one thing, and he's having his own conversation with himself about something else, right? They're like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And he's like, hey, ice cream and this and chocolate cookies. No, but what about hot chocolate? Do you like hot chocolate? Yeah, but the M&Ms and the potato chips. And hey, are you gonna answer the question? I'm answering the question. You let me answer the question. The potato chips and also salads. I love salads. Hey man, do you or do you not like hot chocolate? Listen, man, I know about what people eat. This is what I do. I understand about people's diets. Do you like hot chocolate or not? Listen. This is why people can't, in this country, why we're in the state that we're in. Because, we can't talk to each other. Do you like hot chocolate or not?
So what happened?
You guys can all jump on me. That's fine.
No, I'm not jumping on you. I'm trying to have a conversation with you, okay? Look, it is an option for Donald Trump to respect his voters and not scapegoat race in a situation like that. He chooses not to every time. Why?
She's asking a very specific question. Once again, here, this is attempt number 2. Specific question asked. Is he going to answer that question, or is he just going to ignore it and talk about something else? Put your guess below.
Every time. Why? His voters and not scapegoat. I'm not jumping on you. I'm trying to have a conversation with you, okay? Look, it is an option for Donald Trump to respect his voters and not scapegoat race in a situation like that. He chooses not to every time. Why?
He is saying, and I do not defend him, and I've not defended him on this program, because there are things that are more important than Republican and Democrat, and it's why some people lost.
Notice how he's spending all this time not answering the question once again. He chooses not to. Why? Listen, I'm not defending him, and this is, and I haven't, and it's more important, chocolate, potato chips, and salads.
The Congress anymore. I'm trying to tell you the truth.
Well, look, you don't have to listen. I just won my
Hold
primary.
on,
You don't have to lecture me.
Hold on,
let me
let me let him
I mean, if
finish.
you
Okay, that guy is messing it up. He was about to evade another question. Now this other guy is jumping on him. Now he's got material to work with. He doesn't want to answer the question, right? So you coming in and be like, now he can be like, perfect. I can talk about something else. No, and listen, and we got to come together and conversation. Let's have a. Shut up, man. Let the guy not answer the question, man. He's messing it up.
if you're gonna throw shots, I'm
Just a second. Let me let him finish.
I know you know mistakes.
And of course, the right winger doing a video on this is not going to point out that she protected him in terms of he was trying to talk, that other guy cut him off, and she's like, no, let him finish. Right? They'll make a video talking about, oh, they're afraid of the truth and they won't let him answer the questions. And here he's talking, and this other guy cuts him off, and the host is like, let him talk. But they're not going to mention that. They're going to just mention the other thing, right? I'm showing you both.
This is why this show is such a challenge for me. This is why this show is such a challenge for me.
Still not answering the question. How he's complaining, little soy boy snowflake. This is why this show is such a challenge for me. You guys gang up on me. And then when I don't answer questions, you call me out for it. And it's not fair. You're supposed to just let me gaslight and say whatever and don't push back. Okay, I want to make a point here. For those of you guys that may be thinking, Frank Luntz is in the right, blah, blah, not about his opinion, about how this conversation is going. Imagine that I went on Fox News, right? And I'm sitting there blaming everything on race, right? I'm saying that global warming is because of racism. The high crime, it's because of racism. The fact that gas prices are high, it's racism, right? And then people are like, what do you mean? Can you explain what do you mean? How is all these things racism? And I'm like, listen, man, listen. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. And the Republican Party, they're white supremacists. No. Answer the question. Why is it that you're saying everything is racism? Like, what's your basis for that? Listen. You guys are a bunch of bigots. Imagine in that scenario that all the people on Fox News keep cutting me off, right? They ask me a question, I'm refusing to answer the question. I'm playing all kind of games and this and that, I want to talk about something else, and they're not allowing me to do it. Would you also look at that and be like, man, Fox News is unfair? they're not letting that guy talk? They're afraid of the truth. Or would you be applauding them for not letting me continue to talk my nonsense? Right? So your opinion of how Frank Luntz is being treated is affected by whether you agree with him or not. And it shouldn't be that way. You should put aside whether you agree with him or not and pay attention to his behavior. Right? If I were on Fox News talking some everything is racism nonsense, they should shut me down. Right? They should call me out. Right? Frank Luntz is on here talking nonsense. They should shut him down. They should call him out. Right? You go on a show talking nonsense, you should get called out. You should get, major pushback as you see here. But of course, and that's the thing, it's not a matter, I was going to say, if you think that what he's saying is not nonsense. But it is nonsense, demonstrably, because he's asked one question, he's talking about something else. Again, you have to separate your agreement with his positions versus his conduct, right? Like, you might agree with me on, you think that things are too woke in this country, right? And we both agree on that, right? Let's say that's the case. I don't agree with that, obviously, but let's just say we agree on woke stuff. I'm on a show, I believe too much woke stuff, you agree too much woke stuff, so I'm on your side, you're with me. And then they ask me, what do you mean by woke? What does that mean to you? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by racism, right? You have to put aside that you agree with my woke positions and separate that from, bro, they just asked you to define woke and you're talking about something else? Like, what's that about? Right? You have to be able to look at somebody who's on your side and be like, man, what you're doing doesn't make any sense.
Him many times. I've been on the show and praised him. In the end,
look how much time he's spending talking about, oh, I criticize Trump. He's been saying that multiple times.
How do we get beyond how we sound?
Now he's going, he's not answering the question. He's just like saying random stuff that like sounds good. We need to get beyond these things. We need to come together. It's the United States of America. We should be united. It's like, what are you doing, buddy? He doesn't answer any questions. I mean, isn't this what they accuse Kamala Harris of doing? This is what he's doing.
Yeah, I just don't respect the gaslighting and the bad faith.
Notice he was asked to explain why Trump chooses to do things the way he's doing it when he has a choice to do it differently. We didn't get any answer at all whatsoever. The whole time he spent talking about, well, I don't defend Trump. But he's defending Trump right now, right? She's asking something that's like, critical of Trump, right? And rather than him like agreeing or disagreeing, he just sidesteps it because he don't want to say something bad about Trump. I don't want to say, well, yeah, Trump is wrong and da-da-da. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to protect Trump by, let's talk about something else. I defend Trump and I criticize Trump or whatever. I'm not going to criticize him in this moment right now, but I've done it before. But I've definitely criticized him. I ain't going to do it right now, but I've definitely done it before, other times, but not right now. Like, bro.
All of those things.
So she asked the question, it was never answered. Now she's going on to something else. He totally ducked it.
Offices of the land. You have someone saying, because there is diversity, there is a lack of merit, there is a lack of quality, there is a lack of experience. That is a racist view, that people who have characteristics that they cannot change about them, that don't tell you anything about their intellect, about their experience, are by definition not experienced. Do you understand that?
I do, because I listen to this. I hear this, and I internalize it. And for those who feel like they're being marginalized, we have to do more. I agree with you.
It's not even just about being marginalized. It's just about recognizing that.
You notice how he's able to finally answer a question? This is a question that was an easy one. Do you understand how something, whatever she said, right? It's like a yes or no, right? You don't have to incriminate Trump or the conservative movement or anything like that, right? To answer this, to just say, yeah, I agree, that makes sense. Like, that was an easy one. So when the question is easy, right, it doesn't challenge his ideology or his side, he has no problem answering right away. Yes, I understand. Like, you tell him, come around. Yes, I understand. You ask him about why does Trump choose to do. Listen, I've called out Trump before. Many times I've called out Trump. Listen, I've also agreed with him sometimes, and I've called him out. And I've called out Trump, and you guys have seen me on this show and I've called out Trump. It's like, bro. What was the other question she asked him? I don't know what she said. What, something like, why do you think Trump does X, Y, Z the way he does it? Because people feel a certain way when he does that. Like, why does he do it? Listen, the voters, I listen to the voters and I've done surveys and the voters tell me they don't want to be called racist anymore. And they don't want to be called racist anymore. And you keep calling racist and this and that. Do you understand that sometimes people want to be treated with merit based on their merit and not based on their letter? Yes, absolutely. I understand that. And then, since it's an easy thing to answer without incriminating anybody, he then can more easily do his tangent thing. Before, the tangent thing is in absence of an answer, right? You ask a question, you don't answer it, and all you're doing is tangent. Now he's able to give an answer and then give, the tangent is kind of allowed. And when I say allowed, I mean, he's not necessarily doing anything wrong this time because he already answered the question, so he's free to talk about other stuff. The problem is when he's talking about other stuff to hide from the question, but he didn't hide from the question. He answered, he's like, yes. I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna say it again. Many of you who agree with Frank Luntz's positions are gonna struggle to recognize the bad faith behavior. Even after I've pointed it out, I think I've articulated my point pretty clearly. It's going to be difficult for you to see the points that I'm making because you just can't. It's like Hitler, and I'm going to do a video about that. You can't mention Hitler because people can't get beyond the bloodshed, right? They see Hitler as a one-dimensional character. He appeared out of thin air as a fully grown adult, already in power, and just started killing people. That's the way they see Hitler, right? So you bring up his name, trying to compare anything that he did to things that people are doing today, and it's kind of like, you're being hysterical, because their brains just can't separate. It's like Hitler is this, that, like so many things, right? But in their minds, Hitler is just the guy that killed the Jews. So you bring up the guy that killed the Jews, and it's like, that's it. But the problem is, before he started killing Jews, there were a lot of other things that happened. There were a lot of warning signs and red flags, right? Before the bloodshed, he was just a regular guy doing certain things. If we see someone else doing similar things as well, I'm going to leave that to my future video entitled, Hitler Was Not a Monster. Comment below. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Frank Luntz is a buffoon.